Yesterday, we told you about San Francisco's new Fat Acceptance Czar. I think that was her official title. This is a woman that has been hired by the city to consult with them on how to better promote obesity and heart disease. Promote those things, not fight them or combat them or treat them, but promote them. They want to promote it. They want to celebrate it. And so over the last day or two, more videos of this woman, Virgie Tover is her name, have surfaced. Videos of this now tax-funded fat consultant.
In this clip with Matt Walsh, we're jumping into a ridiculous situation happening in San Francisco. The city has hired a Fat Acceptance Czar. Yes, that is a real job title now. This woman, Virgie Tover, is out here promoting obesity as some kind of badge of honor. Now, you might think this is a parody, but it's not. Matt Walsh absolutely demolishes this delusion that fat acceptance is somehow healthy, and we're going to break it down.
And I just want to play a couple of these for you, and we'll start with this. This is our friend Virgie, tax-funded fat consultant in San Francisco now, before she got the gig, I believe, declaring that, quote, nobody has to be healthy, which is an interesting statement. Let's listen.
Where do you see the intersection, really? What is your definition of health?
Yeah, that's really complicated, right? I think I want to talk about that question, but I want to start by saying that, no one has to be healthy. No, right? Like, I mean, it's like, no, like there is no governing body that's like out there putting, you know what I mean? It's like no one owes anybody that in either the traditional sense of the word or any other more innovative or, more politicized, maybe even version of that word. So I think it's important to say like, and I want to back up and bring in intersectionality and say like, right, like look at the disabled community, right? Like I think people with disabilities have and activists within that space have consistently been saying like, I'm never going to be your notion of healthy. That doesn't mean I don't get to be a full human. You get to treat me some kind of way, right? And so I think that I love taking that principle within disability rights to fat activism and to understandings of fatness. So I want to start there, right? Like no matter what size you are, you don't owe anybody else your health. But I mean, for me, right, like in an ideal world where there wouldn't be health-based gatekeeping.
So she says that nobody has to be healthy. There's no governing body forcing you to be healthy. Well, first of all, RFK Jr. might have something to say about that very soon. But that aside, yes, you are correct that you don't have to be healthy. You have the right to be unhealthy, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. You have the right legally to become fat and diseased and die before you turn 40.
Yes, technically you can choose to be unhealthy. Of course you can. But that does not make it right, and don't pretend that it is. And let's be real here. This is not some act of rebellion. Being unhealthy is like deciding to take a vacation to the emergency room. Sure, you can do it, but it's not exactly a vacation you want to be on. What we're really talking about here is a moral obligation to take care of yourself, not just legally getting a free pass to destroy your health. It is baffling that some people think it's progressive to endorse a lifestyle that literally cuts your lifespan short. If you want to get fat, go ahead, but do not pretend it's healthy.
You don't have the moral right, Because a moral right that, you in fact have a moral obligation to be healthy and to take care of your body, take care of your health. That's a moral obligation that you have. So you actually don't have the moral right to abuse yourself to the extent that you become morbidly obese. But you do have the legal right, and our legal rights and our moral, you have legal rights and moral obligations, and sometimes those things line up and sometimes they don't. But sure, legally, like no one can legally require you to not be fat. And I think that even with RFK Jr. coming in, it would be very hard to come up with a law. Even in a scenario where I ascend to my throne and become a dictator of the hemisphere, I'm not even sure that I would outlaw obesity.
Just because you can do something does not mean it is right to do that thing. Sure, you have the legal right to make all kinds of bad decisions. There's no law against eating yourself into an early grave, for example, but that does not mean it's a good idea. This is exactly why so many people on the left get upset when you say, hey, maybe eating 5 pizzas a day isn't the healthiest choice. They can't separate personal freedom from personal responsibility. Just because you have the right to be unhealthy does not mean it's morally acceptable to encourage others to do the same. It's like saying, well, I have the right to drive blindfolded, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea.
And for a lot of people, especially people on the left, especially somebody like this, they just very much struggle. They conflate those things. They don't understand that it's like when, and this is why they'll often respond when you make a moral statement. Here's another video from this woman, and here she is explaining. We're not gonna play the whole thing because it goes on at length, but it is all about cake and why it's oppressive to make people feel bad about the amount of cake that they eat. Listen.
CRFI. If you're like many women, you've been to a birthday party or a small office gathering, an event that's meant to bring people together. There's swinging tunes, some adult beverages, and good convo. And then it comes time to cut the cake, and someone decides to ruin everything.
Oh my God, that slice is huge. That slice is bigger than Beyonce's paycheck. Can you have half of that?
A cake-related fatphobic incident, or CRFI, is that moment when it's time to eat delicious cake and it's interrupted by a moralizing impulse. Inevitably, there's always someone at the party who has to declare publicly that their slice is too large, and that the person who's cutting the cake, almost invariably a woman, must do some disproportionate amount of labor in order to accommodate their need to feel superior.
Cake-related fatphobic incident is what she just said, and not as a joke. Maybe first and foremost, this is why wokeness is dying. And what I mean is that wokeness has always relied not on convincing people of its claims, because almost nobody was convinced about any of this stuff. Whether it's the racial stuff, the fat phobia, gender ideology, of course, big one. Very few people were ever convinced of the claims of left-wing activists. And this is a good example of that. This kind of thing where it's fat phobic. First of all, the idea of fat phobia, just the term itself is too much for most people. It's ridiculous.
A lot of this fat acceptance nonsense is not about health at all. It is just people projecting their own insecurities. So they craft this entire narrative around being oppressed by anyone who dares to eat less cake at a party. It is not about fighting stigma. It is about justifying their own habits. These activists have turned personal laziness into political movement. It's just an elaborate excuse for living poorly and then gaslighting the rest of us into believing it's something to celebrate.
So in this case, you've got a bunch of women who feel embarrassed when another woman eats less cake than they do. And so that's what this is really all about. When they're at a work function or someone brings cake to the break room, or they're at a party, and when they see a woman who's in good shape, say, oh, I'll take a smaller piece. These other women who are fat feel that makes them feel embarrassed. And because they know they're about to chow down on the whole damn thing. In fact, they were going to ask for a bigger piece than what they were being served. And now they've constructed a whole philosophy, really, around condemning that skinny woman who wanted less cake. It's like their whole worldview, their whole personal philosophy is really just structured around that woman. And condemning her and all of that. That's basically what wokeness is.
Matt Walsh just laid bare the fallacies behind the fat acceptance movement, showing how these activists are confusing the right to make bad decisions with the responsibility to make good ones. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more bold and unapologetic content.